PLD Projects presents Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast featuring PLD and Matty Gunner. May the Force be with you, always. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to PLD Projects. Welcome back to Holy Snokes. And welcome back, one Matty Gunner. My friend, you had a couple of weeks off, and I held down the fort here as best I could. I'm definitely much better with you than without you. So talk to us, Matty. What's going on in the life of Matty Gunner now that you're back?
Life, it's... How do I put this? Trying to find a way to relate it to Star Wars, and I guess the most recent example I can think of was I chose to live. I went through some shit. Let's just be as candid as I feel like being. I went through some shit, and I had to pull back from everything.
Right.
Podcast, music, work, everything, to just rediscover love for life, I guess. And I went out to Sacramento, California to be around my best friends because that was kind of what I needed at that time. My friends here I'm not too close with, so I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go where I'm most comfortable and be around people that I know I need to be with at the time. Just kind of hit the reset button really on life in general. Started to think things through, have a bunch of new perspectives on life, found, which kind of is what made me think of the topic for this week, was finding my place. I feel like I found my place in the world and found my place in life. And this is a big, heavy topic, but I feel like at 32, I've now not seen the light, but have a realization of what I'm here to do, here to accomplish, and I can't do it if I'm acting the way I was for the last few weeks. So I reached out to you and I said, hey dude, I can't do this right now. It's not fair on you for me to half-ass this, just show up just for the sake of showing up, just to show up out of some degree of loyalty to the show and loyalty to you as my friend, and just be here as a shell and offer nothing to the show. That wouldn't have been fair to you, wouldn't have been fair to the people listening, and me just being here and phoning it in and not really caring.
Right.
So I stepped back. You handled yourself like a true professional, the man of 1,000 streams, as you are. You've learned from some of the best. One of which I actually got to sit down with, because from Sacramento I went to Los Angeles, and I got to sit down with our good friend Ken Knapsack, and we had a long conversation about creativity, about life as a whole. And I saw some other friends of ours, Sean Sullivan, Julie Marie, Dan Nye, David B. And I was just kind of like, okay, I feel like after what was it, 3.5 weeks, I was just like, okay, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to give this another shot. And I hit you up from my hotel room and I was like, okay, let's try to do this. Everyone knows how I am with technology. I think I'm second to Ben Bateman in terms of worst with technology. Shout out Ben, I love you, buddy. That didn't help. So I was just like, great. Is this a sign that I'm just like, this isn't supposed to happen? But I was like, no, that's dumb. That's me sinking back into thinking negatively. And just making, I know I'm waffling on and we're near 5 minutes in, but all in all, I had to get away from the environment that I was in. I had to get away from the people that were enabling certain behaviors and just hit the reset button.
Well, I'm glad the reset button seemed to work a little bit. I'm glad to have you back. And it happened last week was just that you weren't meant to do it that day. That's what it was. It was you
Mm.
weren't meant to come back a little soon, and life wanted to make sure that you had an extra week to kind of regain your strength and everything else. I mean, whatever you need to do.
Although
Yeah.
apparently I'm leaving this show for Scoundrels.
That's right. It was funny behind the scenes. Just shout out to Sully Sean Sullivan, of course. He posted a picture of Matt and him getting big. Matty hugging him greatly, like the same afternoon he was supposed to be coming back. And he
It was
said,
in the
"Yeah, this is
evening.
real
It was
Wi-Fi problem."
6 o'clock. I could have shoot you.
Just poking the bear, and as only Sully can. I'm sure he's working a deal behind the scenes to be at the Comic-Con Scoundrels appearance. Now I don't know, probably not.
Oh,
But
yeah, they're hosting a panel. Huh? Shout out to those boys. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Shout out to them. We love them very much, even though they stole my name. Okay, they didn't steal my name. Yeah.
You gave it up.
They plied it with alcohol, and
you gave it up over a drunken handshake.
it's true, absolutely.
Some
And a
drunken
hug. I think there's
handshake
definitely
deal.
just one hug in there somewhere. So I held out for the hug, I think. Because it's always a good hugger. So
Yes. Hence the photo.
Absolutely. Either way, I'm very happy to have you back, because it definitely feels it's better with you. It's like I said, it's better with you than it is without you. I can only talk to myself for so long before they're going to come and take me away. But you pitched this idea to me. Obviously, you saw the title of the show, guys. It's State of the Fandom. On this show, usually we do 2 segments. It's usually we do the news, a little bit of news in the beginning, talk about anything that's worthy talking about. And then we have a second half, which is either usually like whenever the show is on, will be a review of that show that week, the Ahsoka episode of the week, Mandalorian, whatever, Bad Batch, etc. And we don't have any shows going on right now, so we tend to look for other topics here and there. We tend to try to be a fun podcast. I try to be pretty positive within the fandom, and I try to always have fun with it and not get too heavy, because life can be heavy in and of itself.
With you don't sit on the fence. You walk the tightrope between. You're very good at balancing different people's opinions and respecting different opinions, even ones that you don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's something we can all get better at. I think you're fairly good at it, possibly because your years of experience. But that's something we'll get into.
You calling me old? You calling what you're doing?
A little bit.
Okay, well, you're not wrong.
That's fine. I'm getting on too. So.
No, but I try. I think we tend to sometimes avoid getting deep into things as far as that goes, and not for any real reason, but we just like to. This is kind of escapism thing for us. But I think it's important occasionally to dive deep into some of the important conversations that we can have and how we fit into this very thing that we all love. Obviously, it's a state in life now where Star Wars has gone through so many changes in and of itself, and with the fandom itself too. I mean, it's much different from when it was back in the late 70s, early 80s when I was growing up. Much different than the dark ages of the 90s. Much different during the dark times. But during the re-releases, the special editions, the prequels, they all had their own kind of special state of fandomidity, if that's even a word. I'm making it a word. When Disney bought Star Wars, totally new set, and we're in this kind of weird thing because it's not just the fandom; it's also how the fandom reacts with each other, and how life has affected it in terms of social media not around during the 80s, completely different era. How social media affects us today.
I wish I'd been alive then.
I tell you, sometimes there's a lot of good in social media, but there's a whole lot of shit in it as well, and we'll definitely have discussions about that. So and also we try to be open with everybody, and we'd love to hear your comments on the fandom after the episode is done. So definitely leave those comments. And let us know what you feel about what we're saying and what you think we're saying. The funny thing is, I don't even know what we're saying. We haven't really discussed the topic between ourselves, what we're going to say. We got to pitch this idea, and we haven't. This is the first time we actually got to sit down and talk about it when we recorded the episode. So I'm interested to see where we both go.
This is why, because I want this to be an open discussion. I want us to take off our podcaster hats and just be leave the Queen one on.
Okay, fair.
I've missed the Queen one. Even the smell of the Queen one. I've missed it. But yeah, this is just we're gonna do what we set out to do with this podcast and just talk as fans. We're not gonna talk as content creators, as podcasters, none of that. We're just gonna talk as 2 fans who are gonna discuss the environment of the thing that we love.
Absolutely. And we wouldn't talk about it if we didn't love it. So it's definitely all comes from a place of love. I consider us all family. And sometimes you have disagreements and fights with family. Sometimes you don't agree with the certain point of views of families. But at the end of the day, we all are supposed to be here out of love. I know we are. And hopefully you are as well. You, the listeners or the viewers of the show. Yeah. So let's break into before we break into the serious side of things, the long fireside chat, if you will. Let's talk about the news this week. Again, a lot of times because of the strikes, because of everything that's going on in the world, because of we are in a little bit of a malaise, so to speak. There's not a whole lot of news pumping out. But we have a few things I'd like to discuss and like comment on and maybe have a conversation about. The first thing I'll bring up as our matter of news is that today, it may have already happened, I haven't seen any response on it, is the day where Bob Iger will host the Disney Quarter 4 phone call, like conversation to the shareholders and things of that nature. This is traditionally a call discussion where we have gotten previous Star Wars news. 2017 was when it was announced during this call that there would be a live action Star Wars series for Disney Plus, The Mandalorian. 2021, they announced that Andor would be coming out in September 2022 window. Some things like to leak out, and so it's going to be interesting to see if anything comes out of today's call. Hard to imagine that anything we can hear from this will be something we can take as gospel, considering. I mean, all right, let's talk about the elephant in the room in this thing is that the strikes are still ongoing for the SAG-AFTRA strikes are still ongoing. We mentioned this before. I mentioned this before we went and start to record. It feels really like it's every day. It's something new and different. And it's like, we'll get a tweet or from somebody, something on a leak saying, oh, it's on the cusp. It's going to happen tonight. And then we'll get a tweet the next day or right after saying, oh, they're very far off and we're going to split again and not meet for a couple of days. I don't know what's happening. No one really knows what's happening except for who's inside that room. I've decided I'm not going to follow along in the game anymore. I'm just going to, as Green Day would say, wake me up when September ends.
Wake me up when November ends.
Exactly. At this point, when November ends. And it's a sign of being tired of the situation. And I don't want to say that any kind of way that I still am pro strike. I'm pro the actors getting their due. I think they should hold out forever until they get their due. I'm not saying you should end it because people are tired of it. It's just that it's an emotional. As someone who's not in SAG-AFTRA, I'm sure it's much far more emotional for them. And so they're probably just as tired of it to a degree as we are. But they have to do what they have to do to make sure they get the rights and the payments and everything that they deserve. So when I say I'm tired of it, I'm not saying that this is any way, shape, or form me saying, oh, just get it over with. I'm not doing that. Some people are. I'm not one of them. At the same time, it just becomes a thing of, okay, I can't go back and forth on this thing anymore. Let me just do your thing. Go behind the closed doors. I don't want to hear anything about it until it's done. And when it's done, I hope you get everything you deserve. I hope both sides get everything they deserve. Wink, wink.
No, we don't. We hope the one side.
Well, the other side gets what they deserve. That's what I mean.
Okay.
So both sides get what they deserve. Let's put it that way. But so either way, from this call, I don't think we can take it as gospel because what can they say? Yeah, we're shooting to have this. We're shooting to this. Shooting to this. In a perfect world scenario, that's obviously going to change depending on things. If the strike does happen to end tomorrow, they can make this work. If it doesn't end until February, everything's going to shift no matter what the hell Bob Iger says in the call. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you think?
I personally don't think that we're going to get a lot from this in terms of content. I think this shareholders call is going to be a lot of Bob Iger answering for why there is no work going on at the minute. Obviously the writers are back writing, but we can't do shit without actors. Like,
right?
Be good unless you're just going to do animated content. But even then, you need voice actors. So.
How does that even work? Are they part of SAG? I don't even know. Like,
I think they are, yeah. But
I'm so ignorant about that. I don't know.
Either way, I think it's going to be more shareholders looking for answers as to why, stock is going down and why there's no work getting done, why they're stalemating at this agreement. And it seems to, from what has come out from SAG-AFTRA, and I am only, here's the thing, is the only two sources I am listening to when it comes to this deal. That's SAG-AFTRA and Dan Merle. When Dan Merle puts out a video saying this thing's over, I'll believe it's over.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
That is my, like, the town crier is on top of the hall blowing the horn when I get a notification that Dan, by the way, if you're watching this, turn on notifications so you know when there's videos every time that we go live or put out video. Little segue there. Just needed to see if I still got it.
You do.
When Dan puts out a video that says strike's over, A+. Until then, I'm happy rewatching what we've got so far because it's pretty great. I haven't gone back and watched Andor yet. I'm still a little bit with PTSD from Andor. I might need a little bit more. But yeah, I'm cool for now.
I'm gonna pitch the idea. Like, I don't know if I believe this or not, but I'm gonna try to pitch the opposite, and that we get a lot of news today. And here's why. My thought this could happen is for exactly the same reason that you said was going to happen. The shareholders want to know what the fuck's going on. What's going on? Why are things going down? Blah, blah, blah. What can I say except either A, well, we fucked up, or we're still striking. We can't come to terms. Although you gotta hold on to our terms because we need to get this for you guys. We're fighting. He's going to be like, we're fighting strong for you guys, the shareholders, et cetera, et cetera. But I think another tactic he might have is, look, hold out. I understand it sucks right now. Hold out. We're going to make the best deal for us, whatever, which we don't want them to have the best deal, but that's what he's got to say. And look what's coming after the strike is done. We have this all ready to go, all ready to shoot. We'll be gangbusters out of the gate once we can. So we have all this to look forward to.
I think the most we'll probably get, if we do get anything, it'll be the official release date for Skeleton Crew, which if you do enough digging, you already know. Confirmation of
Skeleton Crew is done. Skeleton Crew is
done. It's coming out in January. It's coming out in January.
Right.
They've done all the
Right.
So that's coming out in January. He'll probably say something about. He'll probably confirm the Lando movie.
Right.
He'll probably confirm that the Lando movie's in development.
That'll
probably be it, I think, because I do think
the Ray movie
a lot of this call is going to be that.
I think he'll definitely
the Ray movie maybe.
Sure. I think he
will. I think a lot of this call is probably going to be Damage Control.
Yeah, let me sure. Maybe we'll get a Bad Batch release date as well, because then you can say, well, we're still working on the animated side of things, that kind of thing.
Yeah. That'd be actually that's a good point. Yeah, Bad Batch too.
Although damn it, I really hope. I almost want Bad Batch to go in March. I don't want to have the same situation. As much as a plethora of love and a plethora of goods, I didn't love when Bad Batch and Mandalorian were on the same day or coming out at the same time. I'd rather be able to live and breathe the content I'm watching. Like, I'd love to be able to sit through Skeleton Crew, watch all the Skeleton Crew, and then dive into Bad Batch. There's less time in between, but you get more time to, because Bad Batch, I think, actually honestly suffered a little bit in terms of not in comparison. It's kind of funny. Some people are saying they preferred Bad Batch to Mandalorian, which is definitely an argument that could be made. I completely understand.
Maybe viewership it may have suffered a little bit,
but I feel like the concentration of the fandom would have been more towards Mandalorian over Bad Batch, which is unfortunate because animation has definitely proved to be probably the strongest, most consistent thing that Star Wars has done since the prequels, anyway. Potentially. So either way, I'd like to give Bad Batch the final season its own chance to shine. But yeah, I agree. I think we'll have to see what happens. I don't know. We'll guess we'll find out today whether anything happens or not.
It's probably happening right now as we speak. As is with us when we record. It's usually going on as it's happening.
That's usually is how it happens. You're right. Anyway, but let's get into it's actually the Bad Batch is a great segue into our next little topic. The Bad Batch have made an appearance in comics, which is interesting to me. We have hyperspace stories which have been coming out, and I haven't read any yet. I made mention to this to Matt. I don't know if I made mention to this on the show. I decided at one point that I wanted to do I do projects. I'm like kind of OCD this way. I don't know why. I do projects of movies, things. I just do things in a certain way. I decided for whatever reason, I'm going to start a canon read / reread / whatever, much like I did with Legends. I know I've talked about that before. I started a while ago. I'm reading everything in universe chronologically that Legends ever had. Right now, I'm in the Last of the Jedi series, the 10-book series, the kind of young adult, that just takes place just past episode 3. That's how, this has been years too, by the way. So that's how much stuff is Legends is all comics and things like that.
I was gonna say, that was a while ago.
Absolutely. So I'm getting to that. I haven't even hit the original trilogy yet. So here you go. But anyway, I decided I'm going to do the same thing with canon, because I kind of like what I'm doing with Legends, so I get to read everything. That has kind of stopped me from reading anything like really new that's come out. Like I know we talked about with the new High Republic Phase 3 started. I'm close. I'm going through the High Republic now, so I wanted to wait until I got there chronologically again. I have not read. I know the Crimson Climbing book, the Akira book came out that I haven't read yet. I'm going to wait till I get there. And the comics too. A lot of comics that come out that I've stopped reading the comics that have come out. I'm getting them. I'm collecting them for when I get there. It's tough sometimes because I read, Darth Vader comic book. I love Darth Vader comic book. I should read that. I'll wait.
You should just wait till the trades come out. The omnibus of the whole thing.
Might be what I do.
Wait till that comes out and then get those, because A, it saves a lot of space. B, it saves a lot of money.
Well, I'm a digital guy anyway. I just do everything digitally at this point. So I don't worry about it. I understand the physical media. I understand the physical media argument. I know PJ Campbell, he'd kill me because I talk about this.
PJ is fuming right now.
He really is.
Great.
He woke up in a cold
Not
sweat.
only does he collect his movies digitally, he collects his comics digitally too.
Everything digital. I just don't have space for it. They can fuck it. But either way, I'm going back. Is like the hyperspace stories is something I'm actually very interested in getting to. I love the idea of this anthology storyline, which is a little anathema to what I usually like about Star Wars. I love the connectivity of Star Wars. So a story from point A to point B to point C is usually what I like. So an anthology place where it's kind of hit and running isn't as good to me, potentially. However, we get a lot of cool things like this. Like the Bad Batch made their comic book debut in Hyperspace Stories 10, and it's a story that takes place pre-Clone Wars. Their Clone Wars arc, because Echo's not there. It's just the 4 of them. So it's interesting. I love to be able to get that kind of background. I love that we get to see more of our boys before the shitstorm that went down after Order 66. I can't wait to get there in the order. I can't wait to be there. But I also looked forward, and there's a lot of cool hyperspace stories in potential in there. There's a Mace Windu story. There's an Obi-Wan story. There's a Mace Windu's and Yoda story is coming. It's a Dark Horse comic book. It's 10 issues in right now. I think this is kind of a cool thing to do. I hope this goes for a long time, and I hope we expand out, much like we talked about with Tales of the Jedi, the animated series. I hope we get to expand and do some crazy shit. People we haven't thought of in years.
Honda
getting a Hondo book would be freaking amazing. I love it. Come on, let's do it.
No more Mace Windu though. I'm tired. I've never read or watched or listened to a Mace Windu story that's made me like the guy at all. So I'm just like, why are you continuing to denigrate this character for me? Like, I get it. He's a dick. Cool.
Where's Sam Jackson?
I think he loves it. I think he loves it because obviously you have his character in Django Unchained.
Oh yeah. He
that came heavy under fire, and he was just like, so what?
I love it.
I'm still let me cry. Let me wipe my tears with all the money I'm making from this movie.
Yeah. I love Samuel L. Jackson. He's definitely one of us, which is the greatest thing really. But yeah, so I'll pitch that. Let's get into that. Maybe we'll redo a series on the hyperspace stories eventually as we get through find new topics to discuss. Next piece of news, in a case of really, Timothy Zahn wants to write more Thrawn. And there's a news article on Star Wars News Now where Timothy Zahn talked first of all about the motivations of Thrawn, and he again doubled down and backed his motivations in Ahsoka. He doubled down on the fact that he thinks Dave Filoni knows Thrawn very well. There's been some debate in the community because that the Thrawn of the books doesn't feel necessarily like the Thrawn that Dave Filoni has depicted.
I agree.
I would say I don't disagree. To a point. There's definitely some things in there, but I kind of think that Timothy Zahn is going to say that regardless of what. I don't know. I'm not going to say he doesn't feel that way. I'm not saying he's lying, but I also think he's very diplomatic as well, and he doesn't want to bite the hand that feeds him either way. So even if he did disagree, or even if he did agree with that idea of Thrawn being different, I think he would be smart to say, yeah, it can work and it can work. Mainly, especially because he has said that he wants to write more. He guess he was kind of held back a little bit in the time period because Filoni had to do his thing and you don't want to do things. But now that there's a gap between Rebels and Ahsoka, Zahn says he wants to get in there and write a story about what happened in Thrawn during that time. And I would really welcome that because as much as I like the Thrawn books that Zahn has done, I will say, and I make a lot of pushback on this, the Thrawn Disney era Thrawn books by Zahn have not been as captivating to me as
the ascendancy. Okay, yeah, this ties into what I was hoping to get across. Is like I want to walk back. I agree. I feel like there are a lot of inconsistencies with the character. I feel like Rebels Thrawn is more like Heir to the Empire, like the original Zahn trilogy. I feel like Timothy Zahn is now like, okay, I've now set the baseline for the character. Let me expand and go deeper into him, which is great. That's fine. My one thing is I do not want to sympathize with him. I don't want to know how his brain works.
Right.
That's his biggest weapon. Like he's always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. He's always out thinking, outsmarting everyone. His brain is his biggest weapon. I don't want to know how it works because that takes away the mystique of it for me.
Okay. That's an interesting idea. I would agree to a point. I mean, if he's going to be the focus of the book and he's going to, like, Thrawn was never the focus. I mean, he was the focus of Heir to the Empire. He was the antagonist, but there's always a story about Luke and Han and our heroes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, with Thrawn as the baddie. When you take Thrawn and write in the way you're doing, you're making him the main character. It's hard not to get into his head a little bit. Although I think Zahn struggled a little bit making, like you said, making him sympathetic. And that's the issue. All of a sudden he goes from being a villain to being like this anti-hero.
No, don't do it.
And I think there's a way you can write it without going so far as Zahn did. I think you could have him have, like, the idea on paper, if you tell me Zahn's motivations for what he's doing are lie in the fact that he wants to save the Chiss ascendancy, and like that's why he joined the Empire, and that's why he does what he does. And to that degree, he wants to have a cold, strong hand, et cetera, et cetera. That on paper is good still. That still works for me as far as Thrawn goes. Getting into the nitty gritty where he does things that make him almost appear like the good guy in the ascendancy, that doesn't work nearly as well. I still need him to be the cold, calculating person who, and it comes and goes because there's a time like where even in the Thrawn trilogy, Zahn point out there's times like the original Heir of the Empire where Thrawn was pointed out several times specifically like he wasn't Darth Vader. He didn't kill his underlings. So it led to this idea that he was a better person than Vader and Palpatine were, example. And I get that too, but I feel like you go too far in that direction. You try to push him, he becomes this like weird anti-hero, and that does not serve for the Thrawn we need to see as the antagonist when he gets back to the galaxy far, far away. Our galaxy, so to speak, in our Star Wars galaxy. And I think why I am excited about seeing a Thrawn book series by Zahn that takes place between Rebels and Ahsoka is that part of the problem for me, honestly, is Thrawn in the Chiss space. It's just wild space or whatever. Because when he's in that space, he becomes the good guy to a degree. I think getting him into our galaxy makes him more focused on being the Thrawn we knew. I feel it's going to be better that way. I know some people love expanding the universe out and getting to see the Chiss again and getting to see all that side of things. I understand that to a degree, but I do think Thrawn works better now in our galaxy in this time frame. Let's see what he's doing now. or at least 9 years. That's 9
My
years.
my thing is this, and this is kind of my final point on it, is Thrawn is a character that he sold his soul to the devil. He made a deal with the devil. And to make a deal with the devil, you have to give up your soul. So let me see it. Let me see soulless Thrawn.
Absolutely. So okay. So last bit of news is a strong term for this one.
I'll say.
This was a wild rumor floated around, I don't even know, by someone who's not very reputable. So I take this with the largest grain of salt possible. I wouldn't even throw it out there as news at all if I didn't think it was at least a fun speculation conversation.
Well, I'm cutting all salt out of my diet other than what's naturally in the food. So
that's fair.
I can't take things with a grain of salt because I don't eat salt. So,
well, do your best. I'll put the salt on for you. You won't even know it's there. So this is out there. I'm not even going to name the source because it's such a wild speculation. But I want to have a quick conversation.
Do they have red eyes?
Not that I know of.
Do they have an aversion to cheese and wine?
Well, that actually is the thing. The source I saw from is just someone who's known to be exaggerating, has been known to embellish and not be truthful. Not necessarily from the red eye side of things. Not like they're willing it to happen because of KK or anything like that. This is more weird, random speculation. It's fair clips either way. Either way, let's get into it. Or teasing it so much. The rumor was that Kevin Feige, of course, the great architect of the MCU, despite this another conversation we had, PJ got into a Twitter thread debate with somebody, despite whatever you want to call Marvel's recent struggles, as you were, not quite, whatever, you can't discount the greatness and the intelligence that Kevin Feige brought into orchestrating how many years of MCU. Like, this is really groundbreaking stuff as far as film goes. Like, this is just that kind of thing. That kind of interconnectiveness was never ever completed on this level, like they did, and they're still going strong enough. I think they've had some misfires. I think the Marvel's coming out this weekend, and I don't think that's going to do very well from everything I've heard.
Have you listened to Dan's review?
I did not listen to anybody who kind of like read some clips, but Dan, I didn't think liked it pretty much. I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna push you guys over to watch his video because
fair. You should go watch his videos.
I definitely saw some reviews, some Twitter reviews and stuff, and the Christian stuff, and most of them have been saying basically that it's a mess. That the three leads are great and they got a lot of chemistry, they got a lot of camaraderie, and it's fun still to a degree, but a lot of it's sloppy. But I kind of feel like this was made already in the hat where Kevin has decided to really kind of shift. Kevin had a recent meeting in Marvel in September, which was all brought up in Variety and brought about the wrong way. And that article was a piece of shit article. I didn't like the way it was written. It was obviously meant to be an assassination post. I think Kevin is trying to shift things and regain his footing. And I think he can. I think he's smart enough to be able to do so. I actually am I am optimistic that Marvel will turn them things around when they figure out a few things. That they're getting there now. But either way, the report would be that Kevin Feige, after Secret Wars, which is the next big event they're driving to, the next big Avengers movie, that he was going to leave Marvel to take over Star Wars. Okay. Now, Matty has been laughing throughout the entire time. Matty's been basically really doesn't want me to entertain this.
Hey, if you were offered the biggest paycheck of your career consistently, because let's be frank, this is a Star Wars podcast, but let's give credit where it's due. Marvel's number one. In terms of franchises, Marvel's number one.
Right now, yeah, absolutely.
So, you really think he's going to give up that paycheck?
Well, this is what I want to bring to the conversation to the table. Kevin Feige started with Marvel way back before the MCU, back in the 2000s, Spider-Man and X-Men. He was actually involved in those kind of productions. MCU began in 2008. That's when he took over. So there comes to be a point where after 20 years, 23 type years working in some degree for Marvel or with Marvel properties, at least 10, 13, 14, 15 years for the MCU. If Kevin Feige, I think Kevin Feige sees the current state of Marvel as a challenge. Because like he saw the original MCU. I think he brought the MCU to its fruition, to this grand high and endgame. It stumbled a little bit. I think he's like, this is I want a chance to turn this around, get things going the right way. If he turns it around like he thinks he can, and Secret Wars is another high, maybe not endgame levels high, but to a point where it's a victory, considered a victory or whatever, does he decide, all right, I brought them up once, I turned around, brought them up again. It's 15, 20, 25 years later. Maybe I'm due for a change at this point. At that point, the money paycheck thing, he's got enough money in the bank by now. Maybe the idea is like, I'm kind of tired. I want to try something different. I want to do something different finally. Where do I go? I can go and try something and do something completely off the beaten path, which is an option. Or do I decide to go somewhere where I love this franchise? Now, remember, he was toying around making a Star Wars movie at some point. I don't know how far along that went. Depends on who you're talking to. But there was a time where he was going to do a Star Wars movie. Does the idea of going, Star Wars has seen better days as well. Maybe I can turn around Star Wars. I kind of almost liken him to Theo Epstein from the general manager who was the Red Sox general manager when they broke the curse in 2004. He left after a while, and he signed out with the Chicago Cubs and broke their curse in 2015. He could be like the Theo Epstein in the movie where he takes the Marvel thing, gets it back in, goes and turns Star Wars around, maybe, potentially, if it needs to be turned around. That's something we can talk about. I that's a totally concept. But if he can take Star Wars to a new level and make it big, that seems like a kind of challenge that he would like, a franchise he loves. And so it doesn't sound so bizarre to me when I think about it that way. However, I'm going to undercut my own argument.
Okay, because I was about to undercut it.
There's one thing I do think that stands in the way. Kevin Feige's favorite Marvel toys are the X-Men. So I have a hard time seeing him leaving Marvel right as we get the X-Men and they start diving into the X-Men, into the MCU and bringing them in. I can't see him leaving when that's going to happen because he's going to want to play with the X-Men for a while, I think.
Yeah.
So
here are my 2 points, and then we can move on from this.
Yep.
You're a Doctor Who fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you arguably say that the best stuff was done under Russell T Davies? That seems to be the wide consensus of from what I've seen.
At least for New Who, for sure.
Okay.
Like from the 2005 era on.
Is he or is he not returning to do it now?
Oh, yeah. Yes, he is.
Yes, because the thing he loves the most, he's probably getting a sweet paycheck from it. What was he doing between then?
A lot of different things. He had some successes. I don't know them off the top of my head because there weren't things I watched.
Yeah, exactly. Go back to what? Go back to what worked, baby. Go back to the thing you loved. Because obviously he loves writing Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
And he's probably making a sweet paycheck from the BBC for it. And now Disney, because isn't it going to be airing on Disney Plus over there?
It is. Disney is definitely producing. Yeah, in America, it's going to be on Disney Plus. At least the new stuff is. But
there you go. And my last point is this. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to say real quick, though, yeah, but you got to leave before you can come back.
Or just don't leave.
What I'm saying is, like, I can see exactly the same thing. Like leaving for Star Wars and then coming back to Marvel later on.
Or just stay put. Just stay put. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And here's what leads into my next point. We thought George was our last hope, but no, there is another. Let the chosen one ascend. If there's one person that deserves to take up that mantle, as much as he grinds my gears, as much as I hate his stupid hat, it's only right that Filoni take that spot. It's only right.
Okay. I get what you're saying. Here's my thought process on that as well. I mean, we can move on after that. The idea would always be that at some point Kathleen Kennedy is going to step away. This is not a red eye thing. Like, I don't like she deserves all the flowers. She can stay as long as she feels like she can, as long as she wants to do it. But the idea of Feige taking over does kind of hinge on her stepping away.
Hmm.
Filoni is great. I don't think he's a producer, though. I don't think he can be that kind of producer.
But
He can
hasn't
be a
been given the
creative vision,
opportunity.
yes. But that's a different kind of, I don't know if he wants to do that. Like, I don't even know. I've never heard anything about where he would want to be like the producer side of things. Would he want to be would he want to be creative guy? So absolutely. So having Feige come in and work with Filoni, and Feige being like the producer guy, and then working with Dave Filoni as far as the creative side goes, because Feige is a very collaborative individual. I'm starting to read that MCU book that just came out. Great read, like behind the scenes, really unauthorized. There's getting a little bit of dirt behind the scenes and stuff, but everything I've ever read so far is how collaborative Feige wants to be with people. So having Feige be like the producer and then helping out Filoni, who they kind of maybe would head up the creative side of things, feels like a right move. Feels like a good move. Maybe having Favreau there as well. Feige already worked really well with Favreau, as we know. I don't know. I think they could both step into that place and be good that way. I'm not even saying
what
I
if we
want
flip it on its head? Because KK's she's the president, right?
Right,
What if
right.
Dave ascends to that title and he controls it from the creative aspect, and he just hires people to do the production, to do the producer role? Like Kathleen right now, she's very much a great producer and hires the creatives. What if Dave is the creative and hires the producers? Just flips it on its head.
It's possible. It's quite possible. I think that's where Disney has some say, though. And would Disney let someone as inexperienced as Filoni, who's right now just learning to make a live action movie? He's in the process of doing that right now.
He's got plenty to go yet. He's got plenty to go yet.
Right.
He's a lifer. He's never gonna leave Star Wars.
Well, agreed. But like, is he gonna be? Would he be ready to do that kind of thing? Would even Filoni think he's ready to do that thing by the time, like, say Secret Wars comes out in 2027, 2028? Would he be ready to do that at that point? I don't think he would.
Tells me is.
I don't think he would be. I don't think Disney would like it. I think Disney taking Feige over there and work with him.
I think let the chosen one fulfill the prophecy.
Who cares what they think? Well, Disney's in control, so I guess I do kind of care what they think a little bit.
No, we don't. Dave, if they offer you the job, take it, or just take the money and give me the job.
All right. Well, either way, I do think it's a bunk rumor. I don't think it's going to happen. I would not preclude the fact that Feige might eventually work with Star Wars at some point, on some level, absolutely, potentially. But like I said, I just had a little fun conversation. I think this rumor is just someone pulling something out of their ass.
Stupid.
Either way. All right. We are 42 minutes in. We've done our news, done our little conversations. Let's get into our topic, the state of the fandom, where we are today, where we were in the past.
Can I just say?
Absolutely.
Hondo watch. There was a Hondo watch this week.
Whoa.
I did see someone on Hollywood Boulevard, like, dressed as Hondo.
Did you get pics?
No. Because I'm fairly certain they're not supposed to be doing that.
Probably not. You're right. Well, Hondo Watch always happens, and I'm glad you got to spot him, the patron saint of our show, as always. Hondo Onaka, my friend, will never fade. We love Hondo. We love him so much.
I smell profit.
I just haven't done that in a while, so I wanted to throw that in there. All right, let's get into the state of the fandom. Matty, you brought up the subject. You proposed the idea. I want you to lead this off, and we'll go from there.
So this kind of came about as part of my big, deep, soul-searching, introspective, deep dive into my own life and, like, my place in the world, my place in life. And it got to me thinking, like, where am I with the things that I love? What do I really feel about the things I love? Because one of the things that came up was I was sitting with some friends of mine and we were watching the fights, watching MMA. And I was very much like, I really don't care about this right now. Like, I don't want to be, like, I don't care to watch this. I don't care for the discourse around it. I don't care for blah, 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 blah. So then I was like, I wonder if I feel that way about Star Wars right now. So I went in, had a look around the current discourse going on, nothing changed. And I was like, okay, let me sit back and examine my own feelings on Star Wars. And I came to this conclusion. I feel like, how do I put this? The whole idea of content being used for monetary gains, being used for this idea of social standing has kind of poisoned the way, and you said it perfectly yourself, there's a whole lot of shit that comes with social media. I feel like it's poisoned a lot of people's genuine love for something to the point where they can't even enjoy something anymore because of the fear that if they voice their love for something, if they voice their love for Star Wars, they're going to get hounded by, a load of people with red eyes that are just like, what do you think you're doing? Disney ruined everything. Can't they get it? Blah, 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 blah. I'm trying not to get negative on this because I want to have like a proper discussion. And it made me think about how I felt when I first got into Star Wars. Like when I was a little kid and I saw Phantom Menace in the cinema for the first time. And I was just like, whoa, this is awesome. And I felt like for a while I had to take a little bit of a step back because it just seemed like the whole content for the sake of, just voicing an opinion, having a voice to say, but not really saying anything, if that makes sense. Like people will say, oh, Star Wars has gone woke. Go woke or go broke, right? Star Wars is now pandering. It's just like, well, explain your point. Like, why do you feel this way? And they'll just be like, oh, well, no, it's just because it's woke. And I'm like, okay, define that for me. Like, what does that mean? More importantly, what does that mean to you? Is that just because you don't like female lead characters? You don't like empowered females? Because if that's the case, there's plenty of other shows that you can go and watch. You don't have to stick around and you don't have to bastardize everything that comes out that you don't agree with. Yeah, you can say, I didn't like this. But for a lot of people, and I feel like a lot of content creators, they'll come out with these quote unquote hot takes solely to elicit reactions from people. And when those reactions turn to heat debates, sometimes cyberbullying, they won't keep it in check, if that makes sense. Like that not only will they either stoke those behaviors and those conversations and those narratives, what almost makes it worse for me is the people that choose to sit back for fear of they will lose an audience or they will lose a paycheck, which is fine. Hey, we're all trying to get by day to day, but it's more of an integrity thing of how can you like sleep at night, or not sleep at night, but like, do you really love this thing as much as you say you do? Or are you just talking for the sake of talking?
That's you know what? You had a lot of things. Like it's fun. I kind of find myself at a loss of trying to organize what I want to say.
Like, Matty, wrap this up.
No, not at all. Honestly, because like there's a couple of points in there that you made that I want to kind of like comment on and actually agree with. I don't know where to go about for it. It's like all kind of like random points in the air. I'll start in that I also, like you, have been examining my place in the fandom, examining the fandom in whole, and watching some things. Like to me, Star Wars is always about joy. Star Wars is always about love. As when I was a kid, it was not cool in the 80s. Star Wars was not cool. We were the nerds, we were the geeks.
Weren't cool in the 90s either.
But I kind of felt like it was an us versus them mentality where we were all on the us side. All the Star Wars fans were on the us side against the jocks or the people who thought we were whatever it was. I mean, I'm not going to blame jock, whatever, but you know what it is. the people who thought it wasn't cool. Star Wars was kind of thing that brought us all together, and now it's kind of the thing that tears us apart sometimes in a way. Only partially. I don't want to go completely negative either, because I do feel in my heart that there is a strong sense of community amongst Star Wars fans,
Mm.
at least a certain sect of Star Wars fans, I should say. But it's hard to see too. I've watched social media. I mentioned social media is the bane of existence for a lot of things. There's a lot of good that comes from social media. There's also a lot of shite that comes from social media. So like recently, I follow a few people, and I watch them on Twitter or whatever. I'll follow some positive Star Wars people.
Mm.
And I've seen some get attacked for certain things, especially younger Star Wars fans, like Star Wars fans who are in their 20s now or whatever, like kids' age. I'll like follow them because they start posting love for Star Wars. Oh, cool. That's that innocent love for Star Wars. That's what I love about it. I love seeing that kind of reaction, that honest to God joy that they get out of it. That's good for my soul. I'll be honest with you.
Mm.
And it's been sad seeing some of them like leave, like I don't want to post about Star Wars anymore. And like, it breaks my heart. Like a couple of them, it's funny. Like they're two of my loves. Like they love Star Wars and they love horror. Those are two of my main things. I love horror. I mean, watch 2 Meter White Dudes on Film, which is basically a horror podcast for me and PJ. Some other things, but basically it's all horror as much as we can get. We love horror. And they had an interesting, my Twitter people I followed had interesting discourse about that. And they said that they love Star Wars and they love horror, but they found themselves generating more towards the horror side of things because the horror community was much more chill. Nobody cared. Nobody cared like enough of like what they about different likes. They like a movie that you didn't like. They kind of like, okay, cool, whatever.
If you like Terrifier too, cool.
Exactly the kind of thing. It's like, that's not for me. Move on. And it feels like we've gotten away from it. That should be the Star Wars thing. And people will argue and yell and say, well, I can criticize it. This is all coming from a place of passion. I want my Star Wars to be good. I want Star Wars to be the thing I love. If it's not the thing you love anymore, why are you still here? I mean, and that sounds argumentative, and I don't mean it from an argumentative sense. I'm not saying
no. I think you're right. I think you're perfectly right.
It just feels like if it's gotten so far away from the thing you love, there are movies that you love. Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy is still there. It's all there, and you can still love that.
Multiple versions of it.
Why do you still make content about it? Like, you're not going to change things per se. You're not a place to change things. So it does start feeling disingenuous because you're getting money from it. You're getting the clicks from it. You're getting the clout from it, whatever you're getting from it, whatever you're getting from it. Maybe you like the idea of being this person, this focal point of what's going wrong, or whatever. You're trying to keep the thing you love. But to me, it seems like it's a waste of time. Paycheck aside, I get it. Everybody has to strive for a paycheck. Everybody knows you get money any way you can, but it feels like a dirty way to get your money to a degree. I don't know why things have to be necessarily that way. And I'm not talking about legitimate criticism. I talked with a longtime Star Wars fan recently, who didn't like Ahsoka very much. Didn't like it. Wasn't a fan of it. So there were so many flaws in it for him. And it just didn't hit the notes the right way. The way for him. He didn't want to come out about it though, because he didn't want to be looked at as one of the negative naysayers. And to me, that's actually in a way just as bad as being on the other side of things. I have been accused, and I'll take the accusation of being overly positive about Star Wars. I completely am. You'll never hear me say, I don't say very much negative about Star Wars on this podcast. Even when I review, I look for the positive side, things I did like. I don't go into the things I didn't like very much. And it's not that I don't have criticisms, but I too feel that way. I don't feel like I should. I almost feel like we lose sense of it becomes more of a black or white, left or right kind of thing. We can't have an honest conversation about some things. I'd rather not, because if I talk negatively, it's like I almost feel like I'm a haven for the positive side of things. People come to me for the positive side because they're tired of all the negative side of things. And that to me is a strange set of times for the fandom. Like, why can't we just have a place a genuine conversation. This worked for me. This didn't work for me. I liked this. I wasn't too big a fan of this. But unfortunately, people turn these things into their identity.
Hmm.
That's where the problem lies. My identity is I hate Star Wars now. I hate what Disney has done to Star Wars. So if I say I like something, then I'm betraying my identity. Same on my side. I'm very guilty of it. I love Star Wars. If I start saying something too negative, though, I feel like there's already enough negativity out there. I want to keep the positivity for the thing I love. That's not good. That's not great either. I've actually really started to try to do a deep dive, even before you brought this topic to me, within myself, search myself about some things I did or didn't like about certain things that, you know what, I'm going to try to I resolved to make myself more. It's not that I wasn't being honest before, because I was definitely being completely honest, but just choose to talk about everything and every aspect of it, regardless of if it comes off negative to that side of things. I think that's the only way we can combat it. The only way we can combat it is to just be genuine, be yourself, and come from a place where it's honest in your heart. To have that conversation instead of just, it's not about bullet points. It's not about hitting marks. It's not about being, I'm the positive guy, you're the negative guy. Just be the guy. Be the Star Wars guy. And know that everything I say about Star Wars, positive or negative, comes from a place of love. And it's not coming from a place of, I don't like empowered women. I don't like this. I don't like that. It's not, I'm deciding what's wrong with Star Wars before I even watch it. I'm taking the Star Wars I see. I'm taking my genuine, this is what I took in. This is what I'm giving out. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to maintain, because I want to be a haven for those positivity people as well. I still, in my heart, even when I'm saying this, even though I'm vowing to do better myself, I want to have that safe space for Star Wars fans who are tired of, not of Star Wars, but tired of the discourse. And
there shouldn't need to be a safe space. That's the thing. There should just be a space.
Exactly. And that's what I want to see happen. And I wish, I don't know if we can get there, but I want to try to get there. I want to try to get there as best I can. So I promise to be as forthcoming as in the future as I have been. I will talk about the negative as well as the positive, but I'm going to do it in a way that I feel is responsible, and in a way that still feels open, so that you don't feel hated or attacked because I don't like something. Because that's what it feels like when some of the content creators we see, they talk about these things that happen and they make such an attack out of it. And if you like this, you're stupid. If you like this, you're a fucking moron. I don't like that. That's not true, because we all have different tastes. We all have different lengths. And even if we look at like the Star Wars Disney series now that have come out, like some people hate Andor. Some people loved Andor. Some people hate Ahsoka. Some people love Ahsoka. I think there's a room for everybody who can do it. I didn't hate anything. I still enjoyed everything. There's some things I liked more. Some things I felt are more Star Warsy to me or whatever. It is what it is. But it's such a different time. And I mentioned this, I'm rambling a little bit. I apologize for that.
No, it's fine.
But I mentioned before how we were kids in the 80s and that happened. There's also a time in the fandom in the 90s where it was basically, it was almost a safe place for Star Wars, because Star Wars was pretty much dead during the early 90s. It was.
The only time it's going to be safe is when it's dead.
That's pretty much what it was, because there was like, it was like kind of like everybody, if you even liked Star Wars, you follow Star Wars, you were very, it was not very much in the popular culture zeitgeist at that moment. So you're just kind of like in your own space, you didn't have that connection. Prequels came out and it was a much different story. People were all happy to be back. Social media was not there yet. The internet was starting to be a bigger thing. But it's sad to think what the social media would have been like for the prequel era. Because holy shit. We've seen a lot of revisionist history as far as people like finally accepting some things, and it's a lot more beloved now than it was back then. I'll tell you that much. And that's partially because those kids who were watching it then grew up, and they grew up with it. So yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what it is. And I have the feeling, I can't say for sure, but I have the feeling you're going to see a similar thing with the sequel trilogy. I do, because they weren't perfect, but they have a younger fan base who loves Rey, loves Finn, loves Poe, and they're all into it. So who knows? Maybe it'll be that way too. But that state of the fandom back then was not. That's when the state of the fandom started cracking a lot. It felt like that's what became an us versus them thing. Was like the people who couldn't stand the prequels for whatever they were George's worst mistake, and the people who were defending the prequels who loved it, what they saw partially. I was definitely more of the love side. I definitely saw the flaws. I definitely liked the original trilogy better than the prequel trilogy at the time. They've grown up now, and Revenge of the Sith is probably my second favorite Star Wars movie. So they've definitely grown in my estimation as well. So that was the beginning of the division, and then the Disney thing just kind of made it worse. Like I felt like I wish we could all go back to 2014. We first were all getting really excited about The Force Awakens. It felt like we were connected. That felt the most like we were in the 1980s than I have ever seen before or since. And the movies happened, Disney happened, and we started getting divisive again because Star Wars can't be everything that everybody wants because everybody wants different things, and that's the problem. And unfortunately, the world also wants different things, and different people want different things. So it's led to where we are today, which is this fandom is not in a great place. I think there's a sect of the fandom that's phenomenal. I think there's a sect of the fandom that is terrible. I think there's a sect of the fandom that's somewhere in between, which is probably where we should try to strive to be. But I honestly, I'll leave off. You can comment from here. I'd fucking much rather err towards the positive side of things than towards the negative. Because the positive side of things, at least you can say, I love this. And if you didn't love it, you kind of go, okay, I'm glad you did. I'm glad that you're getting joy out of the universe that we all love, or we wouldn't, or should at least shouldn't be here. I don't know.
No, that's a very fair point. And there is that gray area, but like, and I'll say this, even on the side of, we'll call them the light side, I guess, you can't, because someone doesn't like a character that just so happens to be female, you can't go out and label that person a sexist.
Right.
Just because a certain character doesn't stick with them, it may not stick with them. My point is, what are their reasons behind it? Do they have a legitimate reason behind it, and can they explain it? People even like, I've heard our friend Alex Damon say he doesn't like something about Star Wars, but he backs it up with legitimate reasons as to why it doesn't stick with him. Same with other people. Like, I'll be honest, I don't like Star Wars Resistance. Why? Because the themes don't really stick with me, and it seems too much like a child's a Saturday morning cartoon, which at this point in my life doesn't really entertain me. Silly things entertain me, things that make me laugh entertain me, but something that is solely targeted for children is not really going to appeal to me. And there seems to be like a pushback on this whole, like, you're not a real fan if you don't like the prequels. You're not a real fan if you don't like the original trilogy. I was with someone yesterday that told me that The Phantom Menace is their least favorite Star Wars film. They can't stand it. And I was sitting there in shock, like, wait, what? Because we're literally the same age. We're a few months apart.
Right.
And that made me think, I was like, wait, just because we're the same generation, it's like, it's a different thing. And one thing that I hear a lot of is people say, I want my Star Wars to do this. I want my Star Wars to be like that. It's like, it's not your Star Wars. Star Wars doesn't belong to you. Star Wars doesn't belong to anyone. Creativity doesn't belong to anyone. Yes, there's that whole thing of, and as a musician, I get it, because people say once you put a song out into the world, it no longer belongs to you. Bullshit. That's my song. That's my words. Like, you don't own the art unless you are actively like paying for the development of the art. You are paying for the cast. You are paying for the crew. It doesn't belong to you. And then I see people that are like, you're not a real fan. And a friend of mine who is a very prominent Star Wars cosplayer, she dresses up as a lot of characters, and sometimes she'll gender swap them.
Okay.
And I'll see like comments on her Instagram posts like, oh, you're sexualizing Star Wars characters, or you're appealing to the woke trans agenda by gender swapping characters. And I was just like, and they were like, oh, do you actually know anything about these characters? when I look in the costuming groups and she's detailing every little thing that she did to make everything perfect, like the weathering perfect to the movie or perfect to the show. And I'm just like, why are we dampening on this? Like, why do you choose to attack? And I get that it's mostly people, 9 times out of 10, it's probably bots that do it, which goes back to the whole social media thing. Or it's people that buy into these narratives. Like my best friend in the entire world once said to me, "Oh, he thinks that Ray is a Mary Sue," and I damn near slapped him in the face because I was just like, "Don't ever repeat that bullshit around me." Like, walk up to that as a good friend Ken Knapsack said, go tell that 5-year-old girl that she has no right to dress up as Ray,
Right.
for celebration or for Halloween or for anything.
Right.
You don't have a place to dictate what someone loves, or on the flip side, what someone doesn't love. If someone doesn't like it, they don't like it. My thing is, if you are going to voice your opinion, because social media has done this thing where now opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. Just so happens that some of them spur out more shit than the rest. But if you're going to if you're choosing to voice your opinion, if you're choosing to voice your frustration with something, don't just fire it off blindly. Have your reasons why.
Well, also part of the problem, I think, is our culture recently is about the soundbite. It's about the quick and dirty of it. It's
The
summing it up
30-second TikTok generation.
It's exactly it. Summing it up in 30 seconds, which just prevents you from having the conversation. I feel it's funny. Like, it's kind of tangentially related. It made me laugh today. There was a Variety interview with Christopher Nolan. And
about him, when he was asked about the Batman, right?
yeah, and like the Variety asked him in the article. I think it was Variety. Asked the article. Part of the article, I read the whole article. It was about Oppenheimer. Wonderful article. If you're into filmmaking, into Christopher Nolan's direct, anything like that. Wonderful article. Towards the end of the article, during a follow-up question, the interviewer stated that he asked Christopher Nolan whether he had seen the Batman. Obviously, as a connection, since he had done the Dark Knight trilogy and everything, there's a connectivity there. And it's
not a Marty
Scorsese
question where they're just trying to bait the answer out of him.
It's an interesting conversation. I actually would like to know Christopher Nolan's thoughts on Matt Reeves' The Batman. It'd be interesting to hear given where he came from. Christopher Nolan had a very nice, very interesting response. He said, "You know what? I'm not going to answer that because if I do, if they're talking about it, that's what's going to be the focus of the conversation. That's how it's going to get out there. That's all anyone's going to talk about as far as this interview goes."
Smart man.
And the irony of it, though, is what does Variety put out there? Exactly that. That's the part that he puts out there. So even him not answering it was the selling point. They were talking. That's what they're talking about. He was exactly right because that's exactly what they're talking about. And I don't know if Variety even understood the irony they had of putting that out as a post. The post was, we don't know if Mr. Nolan has seen the Batman. Like, really? He told you why he's not answering, and you're doing exactly against what he wanted. It was ridiculous. But I'm liking it. I don't want to take too much of a tangent. So I'm liking it to that is that, like, what you told me. You said that your friend comes and raise a Mary Sue, and you want to slap the shit out of him. There's a way to have the conversation without chopping it down to a bite-sized, antagonistic, inflammatory way that automatically leads to a response like you had. Someone saying raise a Mary Sue, you're like, fuck you. Now the guy comes and goes, you know what? Yeah, I didn't really connect with Ray. I felt like, she's kind of, I thought she kind of became, I didn't understand why she was so powerful as she was. It kind of felt like it was a lot of plays. It kind of took me out of the movie. You say something like that. Exactly. You got to get that. I don't really agree with you. All right. If you have that opinion, that's your opinion.
That's just like,
it's the same thing they're saying, but it's how they're saying it. There's a way to, like, if I come over and go, I just slap you in the face, you're going to fucking take me down. If I come over and say, I don't agree with this, we could have a conversation and you're both left in a place where you might not agree with each other, but you're civil and you're not like crushing people's thoughts. Because if you come up and tell me You come up and say Queen fucking sucks. I'm like, fuck you. Say, Queen's not great. I don't like a lot of their songs don't connect with me. I like Metallica, they're much heavier. Something like that. I'm like, yeah, I get that. Okay. We can have the conversation, be friends. You call me like Queen fucking sucks. Fuck, like I'm left with a fuck you mentality of you. And that's what we're into. We're in the fuck you mentality instead of having the conversation.
God, I want that tattoo. That's great. Fuck you mentality. That might be my next tattoo.
And that's really what it is. And like, I think we got to get out of the fuck you mentality. Everybody wants to be hip and everyone wants to be this like kind of cool guy who's making the bold and inflammatory. No, bold and inflammatory leads to a place where we all can't get along. Conversation and it'll all be okay. It will all be okay. And we can all be much more friendly and be a much friendlier place to live, which is what we all really should strive for, right? I don't want to hate everybody. I don't want to go off on anybody. I'd rather be people's friends. So let me be your friend. Don't come after me with shit like that.
Yeah. And I guess it's kind of my final point on this is just like the people who will. I gotta be careful how I word this. I gotta walk around this. Fuck it. The people that will flat out discredit other people's insights and their feelings towards something. Jesus, what the hell's going on in my life? Either way, their feelings towards something on either side, whether they like it or they don't. The people who will actively try to have a conversation, and then these other people will just be like, no, this is why your opinion doesn't mean anything because you just all you ever do is talk about da 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 da. It's like, okay, sorry. Forgive me for trying to have a conversation with you, another human being, about something that you claim to love, yet you consistently talk shit about, that I genuinely love and may have a few quarrels with here and there.
Right. Yeah. It
goes back to the old adage of just think before you speak. Open your mind before your mouth.
Think before you speak is something that we have never been very good at, honestly. But it feels like we're getting worse, and that's the main problem, I say. Yeah. All right. Any last thoughts about that, or anything you wanted to add?
No, I'm good. Just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Okay.
Oh, my bad. Wrong franchise. I'm not a fan because I quoted it. The amount of times I've quoted Lord of the Rings on this show, or
fair, absolutely fair. There is some news that just dropped. Not real news, but interesting enough. Kevin Feige has confirmed that his Star Wars film is no longer on the docket. Okay, thanks, Kev. I don't even. Laura Kelly posted it from Fandom. It says for ET now. I don't see any article about it to really bring into the news here. But I don't really need to see.
I don't own shares in Disney. This call sounds like a waste of fucking time.
This wasn't actually a call. This was actually supposedly something that was said. Here it is. I say. Let me see what his his quote was. Oh, he was asked during the premiere of the Marvels. He was asked if Star Wars feature Entertainment Tonight.
Oh, so it was probably Ash. Okay.
Yeah, probably Ash.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay,
I'm gonna reel that back because I like Ash. Ash, that was a great question to ask.
Ash, yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Well, it makes sense to have the conversation. If you're there talking about it, you might as well at least because of the nebulous comments between Kevin and Kathleen and everybody else. It's kind of get a good comment on it. He was asked if the Star Wars feature was happening. He said, no. I love that world and I love the notion of exploring new people and new places in that universe. But I should try and get the other quote, rest of the quote. All right, there's no extra quotes. But either way, he said basically it's just not part of the docket anymore at this point. Who knows what's going to happen eventually? I don't know. Either way. All right. So I guess that will be it for now. Thank you so much, Matty, for coming back. I really appreciate having you on board.
No. Don't thank me for shit. Thank you for holding down the fort. I knew I was gonna be back. It was just a question of when.
Right.
It was in the back of my head, and like yeah, I just needed to get right with life before I got right with,
Sometimes we need to
the
go to
galaxy outside of it.
you need to go to Act 2 and have a little bit of a
I did.
recharge.
I did. I need to go to what was the beach in Andor,
Oh, God.
Niamos.
Yes, there you go. You get to recharge your head, go back from there. All
Yeah.
right, guys. Thank you so much. We said earlier, if you like the stuff here, like it, subscribe, leave comments. Always
Where's that like button?
right down
Like,
there somewhere,
like
somewhere
there.
around there. Notifications are always good as well. If you like, where can the folks find you, Matty?
Right. You see where the like button is? First of all, hit that. Then open up your select social media. Type in that. Type in that.
At Matty Moore.
Then come back here, and then scroll down a little bit. And you'll see like a thing where you can type stuff in. Leave us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know if we're just talking bullshit. But if you do think we're just talking shit, have a reason, because I'll be watching the comments. Normally it's Paul that's doing all the replying. This one I'm gonna be watching.
Matty's less diplomatic than I am. Not as forgiving as I am.
I actually think I've been fairly diplomatic.
You have. I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing you. That's our role in the show. And I'm glad that we finally fixed the overlay. Thank you, Jacob Patrick, for always doing the best work. Matty Warner is there now. If you want to support the channel, patreon.com/PLD projects. So stalwart companions as Austin Cadell, Jeremiah Morris, Matthew Kearns, Brandon Buckingham, Jeff Alterman. Could not do this without you guys. Really helped keep the lights on.
Happy belated birthday to Jeff Alterman.
Happy belated birthday to Jeff Altman for sure. Really appreciate you guys. You are the best. You are the ones for me. Join us up. We have great chats. We have great hangouts, some extra content. That's where the Harris Dance is living. If not, I completely understand. Just share and get people watch the show. Let's build this community out a little bit. Also, of course, a lot of stuff happening on the channel, on the channels, I should say. Every week we have obviously Holy Snokes. Every other week we do Two Mediocre White Dudes on Film, myself and PJ Campbell, headlong into the Friday the 13th franchise. Now our next topic is going to be part 7, New Blood. Every other week also, me and Lego discussing the V franchise from 1980s, my favorite television sci-fi franchise from the 80s. Every other week we are in the weekly series now, moving forward with that. And of course, usually every week on my sister channel, PLD Projects Crown Jewels, I have my Queen podcast where I'm diving into every song in the Queen catalog week by week, every version. Although I say every week, this week I actually do have to take a week off only because the current song we are on is We Will Rock You. And We Will Rock You has so many different versions and so many different things to go through. That's actually literally going to take me probably 2 weeks to be able to come up with the video. It's actually going to take me longer than I had to do it. I actually had to divide it out between the We Will Rock You, the slow version, and the fast version. They're going to be 2 different videos because that's how deep this is going to go. It's funny. Sometimes I have one, like last week was Roger Taylor's Turn on the TV. One version, easy, done, 15-minute video. This one, I don't even know at this point. I got tired thinking about it, but I do love doing it as well. So it's a lot of fun there, getting into some deep dives into that as well. I think that is everything we do podcast wise. So that's it for now.
If I may.
Yes, absolutely.
May I sign off this week?
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Holy Snokes, and choose to live.
Rightfully so.
May the force be with you always.